Hey, sweethearts. All right, story time. Chapter 6. The cemetery in Santa Cecilia was covered in a sea of candles and flowers. Families gathered at their loved ones' graves to leave treats and decorate their tombs. No tomb was more decorated than the large mausoleum in the center. It belonged to Ernesto de la Cruz. Miguel arrived at Ernesto's mausoleum and slunk around the side. Dante started barking. No, no, Dante, stop. Cállate. Shh. Miguel looked around and saw baskets of food and treats left on several tombs for the dead to enjoy. He spotted a plate of food on a nearby grave. He grabbed a chicken leg and chucked it. Dante bounded after it. Miguel peered around the window of Ernesto de la Cruz's mausoleum. Inside he saw what he had come for, Ernesto's famous guitar mounted on the wall above the tomb. Fireworks continued to explode over the cemetery, and bursts of light glinted off the instrument, as if beckoning Miguel forward. His heart pounded. He knew what he had to do. Timing it with the booming fireworks, Miguel slammed his shoulder against a pane of window and opened the window. He crept inside the mausoleum and stepped toward the famous skull guitar. Then he climbed onto the stone tomb to reach it. Now he was face to face with the very instrument that Ernesto de la Cruz had strummed. Señor de la Cruz? Please don't be mad. I'm Miguel, your great-grandson, Miguel said, glancing up at a painting of Ernesto that hung above the guitar. I need to borrow this. Miguel lifted the instrument from its mount. Unbeknownst to him, some marigold petals in the mausoleum began to sparkle. Our family thinks music is a curse. They don't understand, but I know you would have told me to follow my heart, to seize my moment. Miguel climbed back down with the guitar and clutched protectively under his arm. So if it's all right with you, I'm going to play in the plaza, just like you did. Holding Ernesto's guitar filled Miguel with confidence, and he strummed it. With each strum, the air around him vibrated. As he played, all the petals inside the crypt began to glow. Miguel noticed the shimmering petals and froze. What is happening? Suddenly, a flash of flashlight appeared in the window of the mausoleum. Miguel heard voices outside, raising an alarm. The guitar! It's gone! Somebody stole Ernesto de la Cruz's guitar, said one man. Look, the window's broken. Miguel froze as keys jingled and the mausoleum door opened. A groundskeeper entered with a flashlight. Miguel dropped the guitar. I'm sorry, he stammered. It's not what it looks like. Ernesto is my... The groundskeeper ignored him. Miguel watched as the man approached, then walked straight through him as if he weren't there. Miguel stood there, shocked. How was that man able to pass through him like he was a ghost? The groundskeeper picked up Ernesto's guitar. There's nobody here, he yelled to the others. Miguel was scared and confused. He examined his hands, touched his face. Everything was there. Excuse me. Why couldn't the man see him? Chapter 7. Miguel panicked and sprinted across the cemetery. As he weaved around the crowds, more people passed through him as if he were made of air. Finally, he heard his mother calling him. Miguel, she shouted. Miguel followed her voice. Mama, Miguel yelled and reached for her, but she went straight through him just like the others. They couldn't see or hear him. Miguel tripped and fell into an open grave. Dios mío, a woman shrieked. Little boy, are you okay? She reached into the grave. Here, let me help you. Miguel took her hand. Finally, someone could see him. She pulled him out of the hole he'd fallen in. Thanks, Miguel said, and then stopped. He looked at his rescuer. She was a skeleton! Miguel screamed. The skeleton woman screamed too. Miguel stumbled and scooted back, trying to get as far away from the woman as he could. He bumped into another skeleton, whose head fell off. Plop! It landed in Miguel's hands. He yelped. Do you mind? Said the headless skeleton. Miguel turned the skull around and in his hands to see its face. Ah! Screamed the bodiless skull. Ah! Miguel shrieked back. He flung the skeleton head away. Then he looked around to see that the whole cemetery was teeming with skeletons, and they could see him. Miguel's eyes widened as the skeleton stared back at him. Miguel raced off and crouched behind a grave. From a safe distance he watched as the skeletons danced and enjoyed the food that had been left for them on the gravestones. Miguel couldn't believe it. Somehow he could see walking, talking skeletons. The skeleton abuela gazed at her living toddler grandchild. Look how big she is, she said proudly. Like the other living people, the toddler's family was there to pay respects to their ancestors. It's a dream. I'm just dreaming, Miguel muttered. Suddenly Dante appeared. The silly dog surprised Miguel with a long lick on the cheek. Dante, you can see me? Wait, what's going on? Miguel stuttered. Dante barked, then darted through the crowd. Dante! He chased the dog until, bam! He ran into a mustached skeleton that knocked him to the ground. The skeleton's bones separated and scattered everywhere. I'm sorry, Miguel said as he scrambled to pick up the bones. The skeleton spoke. Miguel? Miguel, another skeleton said. Miguel looked up. Was he supposed to know these skeletons? You're here! Here! The first skeleton exclaimed as his bones magically pulled themselves back together. And you can see us! Miguel stood and tried to concentrate on their skeleton faces. A skeleton woman charged through the group, sending bones scattering everywhere again. She grabbed Miguel by the arm. Miguelito, she said, pulling him into a tight hug. Remind me how I know you, Miguel managed to ask, certain he'd never seen them before. We're your family, mijo, she answered him. Tia Rosita's ofrenda photo flashed in his mind. Tia Rosita, he said, still unsure. He looked over at the skeleton man whose head was still turned the wrong way. Tia Victoria straightened it. Papa Julio? Tia Victoria? He doesn't seem entirely dead, said Tia Victoria, pinching Miguel's cheek. She could tell he wasn't a skeleton like them. He's not quite alive either, added Tia Rosita. Miguel's ancestors looked around confused. We need Mama Imelda, said Papa Julio. She'll know how to fix this. Suddenly 2 skeletons came running up. Miguel recognized them as Tio Oscar and Tio Felipe. Oi, shouted Tio Felipe. It's Mama Imelda, said Tio Oscar. The twins continued to explain. She couldn't cross over. She's stuck on the other side. Tia Victoria narrowed her eyes at Miguel. I have a feeling this has something to do with you. If Mama Imelda can't come to us, began Tia Rosita, then we are going to her, exclaimed Papa Julio. Vámonos! All right. Good night, my girls. I love you. I miss you.